Hello everybody, it's been a pretty busy week with Switch 2. Today I'm going to talk about my first real impressions with the hardware. Let's get started. How the device feels handheld. When I hold it in my hands, I have quite big hands and the device overall feels pretty good to use. I personally didn't really have any issues as I had with the Switch 1. It is one of my most comfortable experience. I wouldn't even get anywhere close to something like the Steam Deck because it's still very slim and it doesn't have edges. But when you have it, you're supposed to put it in bed. It's the only time that I actually feel it can get uncomfortable. It feels like it's screaming, so I will have this handle. It's screaming like when you're playing on bed, specifically the angle on top of your head that you're trying to play like this when you're in bed. But because you also have other options like tabletop mode and mouse mode, it kind of gets balanced in my opinion. And you can kind of get away without actually buying a third party thing that you can use as a grip. Although I have bought the Satisfy, whenever it comes, I will review it, hopefully sooner than later. I have bought some other silicone thing as well, but it's annoying to put it on and put it off, and it's not that convenient. So I just left it on the side. And so far, I have been road dogging it for a week. The material feels very premium that they have here, the matte material as I have talked about before, and it feels really good to use. The sticks feel completely fine. I feel that this is gonna be the first time that people actually gonna consider, you know what, maybe I actually don't really need to buy the Pro controller, even though the Pro controller is amazing. But some people may think that I don't really need to buy a Pro controller because the Joy-Cons so far here have been really good. The buttons are very tactile, everything feels fantastic. I just wish they didn't gatekeep the buttons on the back here and the charging grip. I just wish they gave you the charging grip for free. Kinda scammy, but whatever, what can you do? You have all these things that this device can do, and I think the most impressive thing that people haven't really explored yet is tabletop mode and mouse mode. There is a whole thing that people are talking about, you know, for this, and it's a handheld, underwhelming, or whatever. When something new comes out, gonna be better. But the reality is, this device is already showing you its innovation, but you just don't really see it. When I see it trying to really show you how easy you can use it on the tabletop mode, even in bed, when you go in bed, you can just put it on your quilt on top and it just stays there. It doesn't move. It's very, very sturdy. And you can just use your Joy-Cons either with a mouse mode, which is really cool. Although I think that I'll definitely seek to get some third party, looking around this is pretty cool. It doesn't move like a mouse. I think they probably just have a longer sensor or something like this that even on rougher surfaces, you don't really have an issue. Even when I'm in bed and I played Kunitsugami, I will just put it on my, whenever I was in the quilt, which is super uneven, and I will just, fine. I was just moving around or on my foot, and it will be just not my foot, my thigh, but it will move very, very fine. Like it wouldn't have any disconnections or weirdness like you would expect from a mouse that tries to glide super evenly on you. This one doesn't really try to do that. Just hovering on top is enough for it, which I found really interesting with the way that they have approached this. And you don't really have to go into the thinking that it's exactly a mouse, because it has all the sensors inside. The only thing that I wish it had, this whole thing, was that it gave you an option to buy the left Joy-Con to be with a D-pad. If they did that, I would buy it, just like I did with the previous thing from Hori, but this Joy-Con is way more complicated, so probably that's why they haven't done it yet, if they even gonna do that. So it is a little bit unfortunate, But yeah, if you're trying to play specifically like fighting games with this, like Street Fighter 6, look at my other video to see workarounds around what you can use there for that. But for most other precise platformers or stuff, you will have to get used to the joystick. And to be honest, a lot of developers don't even give you the option these days to use the D-pad. Unbelievable! What are we playing here from since Super Nintendo? We're using D-pad, bros. Don't move it to the stick. Anyway, random rant. Let's talk about battery life. Battery life is around 2 to 2.5 hours, usually to 2.5 hours, depending on the brightness, of course, because the device is quite low DDP, but so is the battery. I think the battery is 19 watts hour, so that's why you have around there the situation. As far as I know, the device is supposed to be 10 watts TDP, so you don't really have any super high draw from that chip, but still, you know, with the brightness and the HDR and all of that they're trying to do, it sucks more power when you have it higher. And I never put it to adjust. I always play 50%, 50%, and 50% audio, unless I want to use my headphones, but that's for other thing. But usually I never put it above that. Just my comfort zone for all the handhelds so far that I'm playing, it's always 50%. And it works fine. For the battery life that it has, at least the charging is pretty fast, but you have to consider if you put it on dock and you don't put it to sleep, then you're gonna have a situation where you don't really get charged fast if you don't put it to sleep. If it's on sleep, it's gonna charge fast. And on the dock, it gets a little bit hotter when you charge it from there. If you charge normally from just the cable, you're gonna be completely fine, because charging from the cable, not really a big issue. When you have it undocked, it's just gonna charge fast. As far as I know, the documentation also shows that it supports fast charging, so it is way faster. It feels more like an ROG Ally type of charging, and you can even play when you're charging, so there is that as well. So battery life, while it is on a 2.5 hours, because it is charging faster, it doesn't feel as bad. So if you get a good battery that gives you like external battery, it's definitely going to give you more juice than other handhelds playing, you know, kind of higher TDP games that you're supposed to be playing. And if you're playing Switch 1 games, you're gonna have more battery and stuff like this, but I'm specifically talking if you're playing Mario Kart, if you're playing Cyberpunk, those games tend to have like the limits of the device. Let's talk a bit about the screen. The screen is 120 Hz, VRR and HDR. Let's get it off from the start. The HDR is garbage. Now, why the HDR is garbage? First of all, you have to take into account the battery. Because the brightness plays such a big role on this device, TDP, and the battery is so small, you cannot really put it higher than that with an LCD. If you really think about it and get down to the numbers, you will see that it kind of makes sense that this is not really the case that it goes higher. Although in my opinion, HDR is something that it's only for OLED for me. It might as well not even exist for LCD. I have never seen an LCD panel that looked good, because when I'm trying to look for things that are looking good, I'm trying to look at the deep blacks and they're not there. So I feel like, why I have this display? Why I'm trying to get HDR? It's like when you first find out that maybe your monitor has HDR10 and it's complete garbage, everything looks washed out. That's how I feel. So yeah, I kind of ignore the HDR, I turn it off like I do on all of my devices unless it's an OLED display. But let's talk about the interesting stuff. 120 Hz, VRR. Why those are the two keys to preserve this hardware? First, VRR, because we have the options now to get way more unlocked frame rates from 38, I think it is, 38 to 60, to play around and not feel constrained to put a specific cap on the frame rate. But if they want to put a cap that is gonna be completely solid, they can do that for 40 FPS, which is the gold standard for the handhelds. 40, 45 FPS. If you can do it with 120 Hz monitor, it is fantastic. Like, I have been playing like this for a while on my ROG Ally, which has similar display, on my Steam Deck, which I'm doing double refresh because it's 90 FPS, so I'm doing 45, and it feels fantastic. It feels really good. It feels like it's really smooth. You don't really miss out anything from that. So for that regard, that is, in my opinion, the reason that we have the 120 Hz, not to push 120 FPS on non-independent games, indie games, but mostly to have the option for those rougher games to be able to give you a 30 or 40 FPS lock or unlock FPS from 30 to 50 or something like that and still feel smooth with a VRR display. Those are my opinions that pretty much are the same for all the handhelds, and because it uses the same thing, pretty much the same opinion for that. Now let's talk about some bad stuff, bugs. I have seen a lot of people talk about bugs, and specifically I have encountered one 3 times, and it was the most depressing thing I have seen in a device outside of the ROG Ally that had the SD card problems. So for me, it was that when you were downloading a game, if you went immediately to the eShop, other times it didn't happen, but after a while it happened. I would go to the eShop and the eShop will just freeze completely. Nothing responds. I cannot go to any menu. I have to hard reset, and when I hard reset, I get the explanation, you have to format your SD card. And I'm like, I tried to do the recovery thing, I tried to do other things, didn't really work. So in the end, what I did was I took my L and I formatted, okay? And I do the same thing just to confirm I'm not an idiot. Again, right after. So going to the eShop after I started downloading some games, after it downloaded like 5 games, I go into the eShop and then it happens again, the same thing, and then it happens a 3rd time. And I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna stop using the eShop while this is downloading. I have reported it as much as I can, and I have also left a post. If you guys follow my post, you're gonna see stuff that I find out about the hardware there. And I found it there, I put it there, and that was not pleasant because I downloaded 600 gigabytes that day. All day what I was doing was half the day I was downloading stuff. So it was not a pleasant experience, to say the least. Now that was my biggest issue. I didn't have any other issue outside of the handheld mode feeling a little bit tiring when I was going to bed, because it feels like you need that extra support to your hands. And to put it a little bit of scale, because I have big hands, but just to see, if you have a Switch 2, these are the Joy-Cons, this is my palm, okay? I have quite long fingers. I'm not sure if it's big hands, but I just have long fingers. So for that, yeah, I'm just high-fiving. I need two of these to feel full. So when you curl up the fingers like this, you definitely feel that something is missing, even though it's a specific grip. So these are my 2 gripes. Now let's talk about the dock experience. The dock experience has been quite not what I expected. First, they retracted the VRR, they had it there, everyone got excited, they got it back, kind of sucks. I feel like PlayStation 5, they eventually going to get it there. But I have to say a couple of things that I believe some people, but usually say this stuff, they didn't really say. So on consoles, for example, the Xbox, the VRR is really good and all of that. And you have the 100 hertz frame rate and all of that, you can use it with all the AMD stuff and the FreeSync and the whatever G-Sync devices. Sorry for that. And the G-Sync devices. So when I was doing that with my PS5, it was showing that my monitor somehow, oh no, your monitor is not compatible, even though the Xbox was fine. So that was weird, but to my surprise, I was expecting something similar, more selective, kind of curated list from Nintendo, but no. G-Sync just works. And I found it out the hard way because I was trying to capture gameplay from Street Fighter 6 and I could not understand why the capture card was dying to me. And I'm like, why? What is happening? Why I cannot capture anything? And then I realized that, hey, you are an idiot. You have HDR on, you have 120 Hz on, and even though it doesn't tell you anything when you're trying to get in there from the capture card, it automatically switches without telling you anything. So that is why, for example, on Street Fighter 6, it doesn't even ask you to use the boost mode. If you have a 120 Hz monitor, it's immediately gonna use the boost mode for the input lag. So in that regard, in input lag, as input lag goes, I think we're gonna have a really good time when it comes to the Switch 2 compared to the Switch 1 that, you know, had some kind of weird latency issues with the controllers, with how it worked with wire versus Bluetooth and stuff like this. I still remember it and it was weird. The upscaling has been pretty good for both the docked experience and the handheld, which in handheld I think is the most impressive in my opinion because it's running in such a low TDP, you have such a low amount of budget to use when you're using all this, like DLSS and all that stuff. It's not free, you're still using resources in order to make it work the way you want to. So the way I saw in some games so far, it seems like they're working pretty good with it, and it seems like it just works really good. I wish only we had the same situation like it will do with PS5 Pro, that it would upscale your old Switch 1 games. I wish that was true. It would have been amazing if it was true, but unfortunately it's not. Maybe in the future though. We don't know. We don't know what's gonna happen. This all the stuff with the PS5 Pro happened later on anyway for the PS5 as well, which was my other long played console that I still play. Stuff just finished Death Stranding, by the way. It was amazing. I can't wait for 2. So on all of that, the dock experience and the upscaling has been really good. Input lag is low. Everything is working as intended, so that's good. And then we go to the backlog. When you see all the games behind me, Switch, whatever, and I have a lot of games for the Switch, and almost everything that I tried worked, and I found the funniest thing that it was showing that Warriors Abyss was not working, it was not supported, it's not compatible to work with the Switch 2, even though I booted it just fine. The only thing I saw that was happening was there was a thing that was just happening in the game, that when you enter the first cutscene, it has something like a fire effect. It was all green. But outside of that, the game was performing fantastic. I just hope we get a lot of Switch 2 updates. Now, I have a parenthesis for that, because I have seen other channels that have been doing this for years, talking about the Switch and now the Switch 2, and they have acquitted with developers, independent and not. And most of them right now, they don't even have the dev kit, so they cannot really blindly patch through their game to the Switch 2. So unfortunately, that is why you may see a lot of games showing up and you're like, why it doesn't say Switch? Probably because they didn't even have a dev kit in the first place until recently, so they haven't even announced anything yet. I don't know when we're gonna wait for a Switch 2 Direct to show more games coming, third party and some of the first party. But I hope it's soon, this on the next month. Maybe not this month because it's still the excitement from the Switch and all of that. And I saw yesterday that they randomly showed, hey, Splatoon 3 getting update, woohoo! And I played, it's pretty good actually. And they even announced a new game randomly. So they really want you to go to that app, not listen to YouTubers, not listen to anyone. They want you to go to the app and that's it. And I don't find anything wrong with that. It's if they want to convey the information without anyone interfering, that's fine with me, to be honest. But I found it interesting that they really want you, even for new games, to just get introduced like this. But because it got introduced like this, I feel like there is no Direct this month. But maybe I'm wrong. So anyway, the big question in all of this I have seen recently is people asking, is it worth it for $450? Of course it is. Like, if you think that it's not $450 worth, probably you're not looking for a handheld because you have never used a handheld before. We like in the real, like in the new age, right? I'm not talking about GBA, PSP, and all of that. I'm talking about now. If you see how the handheld market is right now, yeah, like there is no way that you can say that this is not worth it for this amount of money. We just sold like an Xbox handheld that's gonna be like $800 or $900. Everyone knows it already, and no one is trying to talk about it. Everyone tries to say, "Oh, what if they do it 600?" They're not. It's gonna be 900, and the whale's gonna get it, double, triple dip or whatever. So anyway, for me, in my experience, I just think that the 450 is easily worth it for this device for simple reasons. You have a lot of options. Like the way that you can play, I think a lot of people still do not think that you will be able to using mouse mode, even though some of the developers have shown how well the mouse mode works. And when you are able to use your own mouse as well, because when I tried it didn't really work with my glorious PC Master Race gaming mouse that is dirty, so sorry for that, but yeah, like this mouse it is pretty good, right? I love playing it FPS on my PC. I played Doom with this, but it didn't work on my Switch 2. Hopefully that's gonna change. It's gonna get more acceptance for 2.4 GHz dongles and stuff like this. And being able to play, I think I found it the most fascinating two ways to play. Being able to hold this like this normally and switch this to the mouse. So you're not like just hovering this, you're still holding it like it's a controller and you're moving your hand the other way. I found it really interesting like that. And I actually even did it with undocked. Like I was trying to do it, but the game wouldn't let me to do it. I wanted to be able to hold the device like this, because I have a big hand, right? Hold the device like this and use the mouse mode, but it wouldn't. It will try to tell you, move it back or remove the other one. So that didn't happen. But I think the tabletop mode, the mouse mode, all of those things that still haven't really revealed themselves, because these games that have these settings, they're kind of niche. Wait till we see the Fortnite getting mouse support. Wait till we see like Call of Duty getting mouse support, and you see like Switch players playing with mouse support. What's gonna happen then? So I said all of this, and we have now something else. The other thing that I want to talk about the Switch 2 being worth $450 is not just the power, right? It's a little bit, in my opinion, it feels like you're getting a little bit more quality from the Steam Deck, because it's a newer device, this one, and it's pushing a little bit harder. So there is also the DLSS that kind of helps better to make things look a little bit better, in my opinion, so far. So in that regard, definitely it's a good thing. Steam Deck is completely different use. You can do so many things with the Steam Deck. As I said it before, it is the ultimate one in all device. This one is not like this. This one is like specifically you want to game. You want to play a game and you want to play a game with different ways. And you're going to get the Xbox games as well, all in there. They're going to eventually show that, oh, hey, you can play Call of Duty on your Switch too. You can play Warzone on your Switch too. I already played Fortnite on this and it felt amazing. And let me just ask you something. There are so many people that are buying the handhelds. For example, like the ROG Ally, like I did, to play some games that you cannot really play them on the Steam Deck because of Linux. And then you see the Switch too. And it will play those games because you know it will. They will make it to be so because it's gonna sell. It's undeniable. It's like, I don't think that someone that was using their Switch didn't dream of the Switch 2 and less. Not even all of this that we received, and less than this. And based on that, I think that easily you can say it is worth, because some of those games, there's a lot of people that play casually games and they only play that. A lot of people got the ROG Ally, the first edition, just to play Call of Duty and Fortnite because they didn't want to deal with dual booting on the Steam Deck and all of that. So they got another device to be able to play Game Pass and those games. Now, I'm not saying Game Pass is going to come to the Switch, but I'm pretty sure that they're going to support the device like they did before. And we may also have surprises like letting you use the mouse mode on something like Age of Empires or like Age of Mythology. These kind of games, I expect them to come to the Switch too as well. So those games, definitely, I think like from Microsoft, when they arrive over to the Switch 2, it's gonna be really a good time. And this is not even accounting what the Nintendo games, the first party games, gonna be cooking. I don't even account them. I don't even, because it is known. If you're buying this device day one, it's most likely just for the games. It's not even the device itself. Let's be real. But specifically, that's why I'm trying to put all the weight on everything else, the support that you get compared to other devices and all of that, and most likely gonna be more optimized because it's a specific thing that it just came out. It's gonna be popular, already sold quite a lot. It seems like it's selling fast. I don't really care for sales. It's not my company. Why should I feel like, oh yeah, we sold 3 million, woohoo? Like, I don't care. I don't care. I love the device. I play the games with the device. I enjoy myself, right? I played Mario Kart guilt-free because I bought the bundle, so there is that. And that's pretty much all. Like, I don't really stress it too much. The video is getting too long, so I think it's time to kind of finish this. And as I said, yes, it's definitely worth it to consider this device as long as you can afford it. And even if you get a little bit later to wait for your game to be announced and come out, that's not really a problem. It's not like if you wait, you're gonna get more most likely from everyone because you're not gonna deal with issues like I did. You're gonna deal with maybe like way less issues in general. When I played the Switch, I played it 2 years after the release, and all of those nightmare things that people were experiencing, I didn't even experience at all. So I was feeling pretty great when I went into the Switch. So yeah, that is pretty much all. This is the first kind of device from the Nintendo that I get day one, and I feel that it's worth it. Definitely it's worth it. I definitely expect more of the channel to cover more stuff because I have seen you guys like some specific stuff. We have talked about in the comments. Some of you requested some games. If I have the game, I'm gonna do the video. I'm just saying that. Maybe it's not today or tomorrow, but it's gonna be coming out because I love going back. I love tinkering. I love testing. And I love showing people that want some help before they buy something that they want to see if it works. So yeah, hope you have a great day and see you next time. Bye bye.